Welcome back, my students, to a brand new episode of Comic Class. In today's lesson, I will be talking about IDW's Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2011, Volume 14, Order from Chaos. And yeah, it's been a while since a volume review video, but today we're going to be talking about Volume 14, and it's a pretty enjoyable volume. So without further ado, let's jump right into today's story. Let's go. So this story basically starts off with the Turtles basically conducting a mission, and they get into a fight with some guards, it seems, and they basically thwart some type of heist or something like that, and they basically take out all of these goons. Now, while they're doing this mission, we get introduced to the characters called the Street Phantoms, and they basically are there to, I guess, deal with the people that are with, the Turtles in the Foot, that are on the mission basically to take them out, these guys, the goons basically. So the Street Phantoms are working with the goons that the Turtles are on a mission to take out here. And while they're having their big fight with these goons, the Street Phantoms basically are dipping, and they basically have two members called Jammer and Maze, which are kind of like the main Street Phantoms, it seems, or at least the ones that are given name drops. So they basically are wondering why they're basically dipping instead of fighting the Turtles, but the leader, I guess, of the group basically tells them that the boss that hired them basically doesn't want them to start mixing with the Turtles in the Foot just yet. So they basically leave, as he says that if he can't handle, this situation, then the guy that is the leader of these goons basically is getting exactly what he deserves. So that's pretty interesting. Now, while one of the goons basically gets knocked down, Donatello, Leonardo, Raphael basically are trying to interrogate him. He basically says he's not going to say nothing, and when one of the foot soldiers basically is going to try using one of their original, brutal ways to get people to talk, the old foot ways, Leonardo basically tells her to stand down and that they're not doing things that way anymore. And he basically tells the guy that these are their streets now and that this is our city, basically. So they basically talk about, what exactly just went down, and they basically head back to the hideout or wherever Splinter and them are basically living now. So I thought that was pretty interesting. We get to see that the foot soldier that tried to get information out of the guy basically seems to be a little sketchy. So they're basically going to go off and try doing their own thing. Now we jump in to see what Splinter is doing. Splinter is basically thinking about everything that went down in Volume 13 with the Foot Clan and the Shredder, and him and the Shredder's death match, as well as the Turtles. And how Splinter basically killed Shredder and took his place as the head of the Foot Clan. So that's pretty interesting. We also get to see that Michelangelo basically thwarts robbery basically from taking place, and he basically freaks out the robber as well as the lady they was trying to rob from. They basically both run away from him, with the robber basically knocking himself out on a telephone pole or a light pole or something like that. So I thought that was pretty funny. That was a very funny comedic scene with Michelangelo basically being surprised that everyone just freaks out when they see like a 6 foot tall talking turtle, a talking walking turtle basically. Now while the guy's knocked out, we get to see Raphael basically show up, and he talks to Michelangelo and basically tells him that he should probably head back with his family. Now he does state that he could force Michelangelo back, where Michelangelo basically says that you could try, and Raphael basically says he's not going to try forcing his way on Michelangelo, but he does recommend he head back to the family because he remembers what it was like to basically be alone. And I thought that was a really nice conversation between two, calling back to Volume 1 where Raphael was experiencing like amnesia or something like that. So I thought that was really good callback and shows the development of the characters in this run, basically this comic book run of the Turtles. And so Raphael basically makes his way, back home and says goodbye to Michelangelo. Michelangelo gets confronted by one of the members of Hobbs' mutant army. I believe he's called, he's one of the Gecko people. His name's like Gecko Mondo, and he basically invites Michelangelo to basically come to their hideout and try to hang out with them and maybe join their type of family unit and stuff like that and work with them on their missions and stuff. So while that's going on, we do get to see that there's a guy that's mysteriously overlooking the activities of the Turtles and the mutant army and stuff like that. And it's not revealed who exactly he is, but he's basically told by his bosses, whoever's talking to him on the radio, that, or the headset basically, that he needs to keep his distance and not do anything rash. So I thought that was really interesting. Now we go into the next scene, which has April, Kitsune, and Alopets, and we get to see Kitsune basically have a conversation with April and also showcase her powers in controlling Alopets. So I thought that was interesting, and there's not really much to talk about there. April basically makes her leave and tells bye to Leonardo and stuff like that as he tries to make small talk, and basically finding out how exactly her and Casey are doing. Now you get to see a Splinter taunts to Leonardo, and Leonardo and him have a conversation about tonight's mission, and he basically just gives all the details on what exactly happened with the Foot Clan and how they did on their mission, as well as the Street Phantoms being there when they went to stop these goons basically in the beginning of the volume. Now Donatello basically goes and talks to Harold, and Harold is surprised to see, after him and Donatello basically aren't seeing eye to eye, that Donatello explains to him that they fought these guys that can cloak themselves and turn themselves invisible, and Harold reveals that apparently he was one of the co-creators of the technology that allows them to cloak. So he needs them to get data on the Street Phantoms to basically find out exactly if this is the material, the tech that he actually helped create. As he said that the other person that worked on the tech basically took all the credit for the technology. So we'll see where exactly that heads off into in the future volumes, and we do get to see a little bit of what happens with this later on in this volume. Now jumping into the Street Phantoms basically go to their boss, who is named as Darius Dunn, or Mr. Dunn as they say, and they basically relate to him the information on what exactly is happening and how the Turtles basically foiled their operations with those goons that we saw in the beginning of the volume. Now, before Darius Dunn can basically give out more orders, they're confronted by that ninja, that Foot Clan ninja, basically, or Foot Ninja, that tried to basically get information out of one of the goons, and they want to basically do a rebellion on Splinter and get him killed, basically. So she gives them information basically on the Foot's hideout where Splinter and the rest of the Turtles are and stuff like that. So they're basically going to go off and try to kill the Turtles. So going into the next part, we get to see that Leonardo and Alopets basically have a sparring match. I really enjoyed this part of the volume. It's a really well done, well drawn, choreographed action sequence. I thought it was really well drawn, and the choreography was just great. Now we get to see after this that Leonardo and Alopets are basically doing a demonstration for the rest of the Foot Clan to basically start emulating basically their fighting style and stuff like that. This is where we get to see that Leonardo explains what exactly is happening with Splinter, and that apparently Michelangelo's leave in the last volume basically has taken his effect on him, even though he's trying to hide it. Leonardo's able to see through it and can tell that it's really bothering him. So hopefully we get some more resolution on that in the next volume. So while that's going on, we get to see that Angel has a confrontation with Casey, and we get information on what exactly Casey's been doing in this time frame, as he's been cleaning up the streets basically of where him and April's family live, basically her and her mom and dad, and is basically kind of like running that street, that block, or something like that. So Angel's interested in what exactly Casey is doing, and he basically makes his way to go do whatever he's gonna do. So I thought that was really interesting conversation basically between the two, interaction between the two. Now, Splinter basically talks to Kitsune and tries to get answers for what exactly she had conversation with April earlier in the volume. And Kitsune basically explains that her and her brother basically have been doing these type of like mind games and messing with people and that throughout multiple centuries, it seems, and stuff like that, as they're magical beings, I'm guessing, that can shapeshift and stuff like that. So it seems like they're really setting up Kitsune to be the big boss type of character after the Street Phantoms are dealt with in the next volume or so. At least that's what it seems like to me. And I do know that recently, in the recent Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle comics, apparently they're dealing with the Raccoon, who is Kitsune's brother. So maybe this is something that's still not expanded upon in recent material. It's barely being expanded upon. I'm not sure. I haven't been spoiled on that, but I do feel like they will enter Kitsune's antagonist role, hopefully after the Street Phantoms are dealt with, as I know Crane will be back really soon. But after this, we get to see that Splinter is ambushed by that foot soldier, that female foot soldier, as well as the Street Phantoms. So a huge battle erupts between Splinter and the Street Phantoms, as well as the female foot soldier. We get to see the elite guard basically make an appearance, which I really enjoyed, as it gives me nostalgia for my time reading the original TMNT Mirage run. Their designs are basically the same, and it was just awesome to see them again. So they all fight, and when this happens, we get to see that Splinter takes on the female foot soldier, and while that's going on, we get to see Leonardo and Alopitz basically take on a ton of the Street Phantoms as well. Get a lot of cool action sequences and panels that are very well drawn. Like I said, we get to see the female foot soldier put up quite a fight with Splinter, showing that she is pretty skilled, but Splinter does get the upper hand, and she does claim that she would rather, get killed or something like that, and she still denies him to be her master, as she only sees Shredder being her master, basically, and sees Splinter's way as being weak, basically, in the grand scheme of things. So Splinter decides not to kill her, which a lot of people probably would come to that conclusion. But before we go into that, we get to see that Leonardo and Alopetz basically continue their fight with the Street Phantoms. They come up with a plan to basically take them out, and the plan is a success, as they're able to knock out multiple Street Phantoms, and so a lot of the Street Phantoms basically make their way out as they grab the fallen Street Phantoms, and they make their getaway, basically their escape. They make their escape. So after this, we can see that Leonardo and Alopetz basically go check out on Master Splinter, as he takes off the mask of the female foot soldier and asks her name, as she reveals her name, as she says, "I am Jenica." And so this character is called Jenica. She basically explains that she didn't want to accept that there's a new change of command in the foot, basically, but she's gonna try her best to basically try to overcome this feeling of weakness and kind of accept that maybe there's a better way in for the future of the Foot Clan, with Splinter basically taking control, as he says that you are forgiven, basically. Because she's basically going off on Splinter, basically explaining her entire philosophy on what she was taught while she was working under the Shredder, as Splinter basically says, "and you are forgiven." So that basically deals with that plot point. Now we jump into Michelangelo. All that time we were focused on the other turtles. We jump back into Michelangelo as he makes his way to the hideout of Hobbs and the rest of the mutant army, as they surprise him with like a birthday cake type of celebration, it seems. So I thought that was really cool. And while they're there offering him basically a home, we get to see that the guy with the Darkwater logo on his back, basically on his armor, is still watching the entire mutant army, as well as Michelangelo, and what exactly he's doing. He's still not told to, go and confront them. So hopefully we see something with that character in the next volume. But Michelangelo basically has a talk and has interactions with all the different mutant army members, and I thought that was really cool. At one point, Hobbs takes him to the side and basically tells him that he doesn't agree with what Splinter and the Turtles are doing with leading the Foot. We get to see that Michelangelo basically explains that he still views them as good guys, as Hobb rightfully calls them out and says, why exactly is he here instead of there? And it's a very good dynamic between the two, as Michelangelo eventually kind of has enough and goes back to eat with his friends, the cake that they made for him. So I thought that was really fun. Yeah. So we jump into another turtle, which is Raphael, and Raphael goes to talk to Casey. He basically asks him what exactly is going on with him in April, and we get a whole explanation of what exactly has been going on with these two characters, in the span of, I'm guessing, a month or a few months, as it seems like it's been a few months since the Flood has been taken over by Splinter and the Turtles. So we get that, and we also get to see that Michelangelo has more interactions with the mutant army as they get ready and they gear up to basically go on a mission to stop some arms dealers or something like that. And at first Michelangelo asks that, but nobody's gonna die, right? And this is where it's explained that Hobbs was able to gather weapons that only stun their enemies, basically, kind of like showing that he kind of agrees, in a way, he's willing to compromise not killing people in order to have his friends basically support him on his mission and stuff like that. So I thought that was really cool development for that character, as well as Hobbs in the beginning of the series. In Volume 1, definitely didn't seem like the type that would use a stun gun instead of just outright killing people, especially humans. But they basically go off to go complete that mission. And while that goes on, we get to see April, as this volume does a really good job delving into all the different supporting characters as well as the main characters. So I thought that was really cool. We had this really cool discussion between April and her mom, explaining how the situation she's going through with Casey basically is something that her mom went through with her dad, and we get a really cool conversation between the two, explaining the importance of compromise as well as working through your problems when you're in a relationship. So I thought that was really cool. But jumping back into the action, we go into the mission, and Michelangelo helps the mutant army basically take out these arms dealers. We get a lot of cool action scenes. Again, very well drawn action scenes. We get some cool character dynamics between the characters and Michelangelo, basically being with all these different mutant animals, as we saw that they actually fought each other. Not all these mutant animals were part of Hobbs' team when they fought against each other. I think it was like in volume 11 or volume 10 when that happened, that a situation where they were all fighting and then like Hun showed up and Bebop and Rocksteady and stuff. So yeah, so this is really cool to see. And once they complete their mission, they basically head back home, as Hobbs stays behind to basically do something that he does every time, as he tells them to basically trust him, as he has to like put the arms away, the guns away and stuff like that. As the guy that's tailing them basically is there giving information to his bosses about what exactly just went down. So that's pretty interesting. Now we go into the guy basically. I think his name was Darius Dunn. And Mr. Dunn basically is angry because they basically stopped his shipment of arms. And that the turtle, basically one of the turtles, as well as the mutant animals, the mutants in general, as he says, and he calls them, are foiling his plans that he needs to kill them. So he basically says to give me the inventor. So I'm wondering who this is going to be. I'm guessing it's probably going to be Baxter Stockman, but we'll see in the next volume, I'm guessing. Jumping back into Michelangelo, and then they basically head back to their home, and Michelangelo basically asks, as they're eating pizza, to what exactly Hobb does with all these guns and stuff like that. And Hobb obviously excuses himself as he goes to deal with the guns that he usually does, this job that he usually does every time they complete a mission, a job. So Michelangelo basically says, for them to excuse him for a bit, and he basically hijacks and he tells Hobb, as he's driving away on the back of his truck, to basically find out what exactly he's doing with all these arms that they're gathering. And this is where he goes into this old warehouse, it seems, where all these arms are basically being stored. And right when he finds out that apparently, this stuff isn't in their best interest, Hun is basically there behind him, and Hun basically tries to strangle Michelangelo, which was kind of brutal and wasn't something I was expecting when you're reading a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle comic, especially one that's not the Mirage run. It's usually more lighthearted and childlike, so I was surprised they put a strangle scene in there, but it was a really cool scene. And eventually they get into a fight, and Michelangelo tries to use different types of gadgets on Hun, but it doesn't really work because he's just too strong. And the fight itself is really good. We get to see that Hob basically shows up and says that, Hun basically needs to cool down, as he's basically freaking out that, Hun's basically trying to kill Michelangelo after he just brought him into, his army and stuff, his group of friends. So we get to see that all the rest of the mutant army, as well as the human girl that is working for them, the human woman that's working for them, basically all go off to see where exactly Hob and Michelangelo basically are, as it seems like they have an idea where Hob goes to basically take the weapons, but they didn't know they was working with Hun and stuff like that behind their back. So they basically are doing that as the guy that's overlooking them and is spying on them basically is heading to that place, it seems, as well. So that's pretty cool. Jumping back into Hobbs, Michelangelo, and Hun, we get to see that, like I said, Hobbs tries to reason with Hun and basically tells him not to try to kill Michelangelo, but Hun doesn't listen to him, basically smacks him like with a slap and basically knocks him out, it seems. And while he does that, he basically says that he's not going to allow his anger to, sustain, basically to go away, because he feels like he has to kill Michelangelo. So yet again, this huge fight between the two, as Han basically says that Michelangelo is the one that likes to crack jokes. That basically today is going to be the day that he's going to end him, basically, as well as the rest of his family and his father, basically. So it's pretty messed up, as he does have a moment where he says that he's going to finish the rat, basically. So kind of like disrespectful in a way to Splinter. But that is kind of like how Han basically views all the mutants anyway, just animals, because they are in a way. But we get to see that when Hun is basically about to kill Michelangelo, land a final hit to basically take him out, we get to see that Slash shows up and basically gets into a fight with Hun, and their fight's pretty cool, as they have history, because they, I think, first fought in Volume 10. It was whenever they had that big confrontation. I believe Slash fought against Hun to save Michelangelo back then, if I'm correct. If I'm remembering right, I believe that's what happened. So he's doing it again here, if I'm correct on that. And the fight is pretty cool. We get to see that Slash becomes more savage as he fights Hun longer and longer. And, Hob basically is woken up by one of his teammates, and he basically tells him that Slash basically is in a fight with Hun, as Hob starts freaking out. Basically says that, that come on, we gotta stop him. And Hun is about to be defeated by Slash, and Slash is about to kill Han, despite saying that he wouldn't kill people. He kind of like made a vow not to be doing that ever again, but he's gonna make an exception for Hun. But obviously stops him and tells him that Hun is working for us, and this kind of snaps Slash out of his like primal state. And this is where you get the reveal from Hob telling Michelangelo as well as the rest of his friends and army, but mostly I would say they're like his friends, basically what exactly his mindset is, and that he feels like he needs someone like Hun that's a human to deal with other humans, because them being mutants would stop them from getting arms, at least in a way that's a lot more simpler, and to gain more power for an upcoming war if it does indeed happen against humans and mutants. So, and I'm pretty sure this will happen, considering it's been hyped up for so long. So many volumes have been hyping up this mutant war. So I'm guessing we're gonna get that hopefully in the next few volumes. But that's basically Hod's mentality on it. And Slash basically tells him that he agrees with Michelangelo, that he doesn't feel like, this is the right way to go about it. And that the fact that he's working with Hun despite what Hun has done to him, basically, I believe he did something to Slash. If not, maybe just, working with the Foot, which are the ones that tortured, I believe, Slash, or, they were working with them. Something like that is why Slash hates Hun. He hates him for a reason, but I can't remember exactly what it is. but he basically says because of that he can't work with him. So he's basically going off on his own and leaving the crew. And Hobbs basically asks the rest of his crew and friends basically, what their thoughts are on it. The cheetah girl, or cat girl, whatever she is, basically tells them off and says that they need to not keep secrets, so they're going to be an actual family. And she basically takes all the mutant army back with her, as well as the female woman back with her to their home, basically, as Hobbs has a bit of a word with Michelangelo, as Michelangelo says they probably better take his leave. Now, Hobbs attacks Michelangelo and scratches him on the arm, basically tells him that he brought him into his family, and he basically just made problems that he feels like when Slash said that there was a snake in their crew, or he brought a snake in their crew, he actually feels like that was Michelangelo, not Hun, as Slash said. To Hobbs, it's Michelangelo that's the snake, not Hun. So I thought that was really interesting. It shows the different mindsets between a person like Hobbs and a person like Slash. And hopefully they do reconcile in the future. Is that combination is really good, and you can tell Hobbs does care about Slash. So hopefully we have like a change of heart in the future, and we'll see how that relationship gets mended. Hopefully in the next few volumes, as Michelangelo basically has tears in his eyes as he walks away. Basically, as Hobbs says that he never forgets and he never forgives. So we get to see this interaction between Michelangelo and Slash, where Slash basically asks him what exactly happened to his arm, as Michelangelo lies and says that he got it with his fight with Hun. And he asks Slash what exactly he's going to do now, and Slash basically says that he feels like he's always been someone else's property, so now he's going to kind of go off on his own, try to find himself, and feel his own worth, basically, as a person. And he says before he goes that he just wanted to tell Michelangelo that, he wanted to be a hero, and that to him, that Michelangelo will always be his hero. And he says, "Farewell, my friend," as he goes into the sea, and goes off somewhere, who knows. And Michelangelo basically watches him swim off with tears in his eyes. So that was a really sad moment in the book, and hopefully, like I said, Slash will be back in the future. Now, jumping into the epilogue, which is the end of this book, we get to see the character of Agent Bishop be introduced, which I believe this character was introduced in the 2003 TMNT cartoon. I'm not sure if he was in any of the comics before that, like in the Mirage runs, like volumes 2, 3, or 4, I believe, or anything else before this, but he's here, so I'm really looking forward to what his interactions and his purpose is going to be in the next volume, hopefully, as well as seeing these guards, one of them being the guy that was spying on our characters, all, the mutant army, as well as Michelangelo, it seems, the whole book, as well as this other guy that's with him too. So this is really interesting. We also get to see that Michelangelo is basically at his home. I guess he went back to their old lair to kind of just reminisce on how things used to be when things were kind of like normal and happy. We also get to see that Orphan, or Angel, is with Alopets to get information for Harold with the Street Phantoms, and to get into a fight to record their stuff or stuff like that. So the Street Phantoms basically are there on the ground, and Alopets basically calls out to them and gets them to basically go into a confrontation with her. So they get into a fight, and again, a very well drawn, choreographed fight, very amazing. Anytime Alopets has an action scene, it's so well drawn and well done, well choreographed, that hopefully we get to see more of her in the future, and maybe have a proper full fight with somebody. That would be really cool. Maybe Kitsune and her will have a fight in the future. Kitsune versus Alopets fight in a future story arc would be amazing. We get to see Angel basically ask Alopets to basically get them to use their cloaking ability, I guess, to record it for Harold or something like that. And after she's able to get them to use this, Angel basically tells her that they can basically make their getaway, as they got everything they needed, and for Alopets to basically go get some rest and stuff like that. So that's basically all they did, and we get to see that, I guess, the Street Phantoms are basically questioning if they won. And I thought that was really funny. It's just a very cool comedy scene. We get to see that Casey and April basically are having dinner with April's parents, and they have a bit of an awkward conversation, as things seem to not be doing too well between the two characters. We also get to see that Alopets, when she went back home, before she could get to sleep, she's talked to by Kitsune. Kitsune uses her magic, starts morphing into that type of fox creature, it seems, and she basically tries to brainwash Alopets and tries to fill her head with all these delusions on what exactly the turtles' real intentions could be, as well as Splinter's, and that they might always see her as an enemy because that's how she started out with them, basically. So I thought that was kind of interesting. It seems like Splinter's kind of catching on to something going on with Alopets, as Kitsune basically has Alopets basically leave her room, as she's basically saying, so tired, and basically rubbing her head and stuff like that. And it seems like Splinter noticed this, so we'll see if something comes out of this in, like I said, the next volume or so, next few volumes maybe. But we get to see that Casey basically, as him and April are heading home or heading somewhere, they basically see someone littering, and Casey gets off the car, basically starts beating up the two for littering. And this is where April calls him out, and we get to see that, she basically calls him out on being too violent, and that he's kind of like losing his cool a lot in, I guess, the last few months and stuff. So they basically have a bit of an argument, and this is where we get to see that Casey basically says that he wants to basically break up or something, like take a break. Well, I think April's the one that says, that they should probably take a break, and that Casey basically says, yeah, well, fine, and that at last something, we finally agree on something, or something like that. So they basically break up. So we'll see how long that lasts in the next few volumes. Jumping into the Fugitoid as well as Harold. The Fugitoid is still working on Burno Island, and I'm wondering if this is when Crane is going to come back. Crane is in Dimension. I forgot what it's called. Is it Dimension X in the IDW series? He's basically with those people that he was attacking in the Crane War. They're basically holding him prisoner, so I'm wondering if he's ever going to break out, because I do know one of the volumes is called Crane War or something like that, or something crazy. So we'll see what happens with the main Crane, General Crane. But we do get to see that the Fugitoid basically is talking to Harold and wondering if he's going to come to Burno Island with the turtles to basically, I guess, talk to them about something. So we'll see what exactly happens to the Fugitoid in the next volume, as I'm pretty sure we'll get that information in the next volume and see what the turtles and him are going to talk about when they go to Burno Island. Hopefully it's going to lead into something with General Crane coming back. But the volume ends basically, Harold basically says, before we jump into that, Harold basically says that he's not going to go to Burno Island with the turtles, that he's basically running tests and trying to figure out what's going on with this technology that the Street Phantoms have. He basically has a lot on his plate right now, so he's not going to be going on this trip with the turtles to Burno Island. So I thought that was interesting. But going to the end of the volume ends with Michelangelo basically wondering, how life is going to be going, that now he's basically here all alone in their old lair and stuff like that, their old home basically, as he basically is confronted and surprised by his brothers, as they basically brought a pizza from Rupert's, basically his friend that works, I believe, there, or something like that. I think, yeah, as Dontel says, Woody says hi, because Raphael says, because we stopped by Rupert's on the way over, and then Dontel says, Woody says hi. So Woody is still a character in this series. I thought that's really cool. Hopefully we get to see him too, because he's a really fun character when he interacts with Michelangelo. And we had that cool moment in the beginning, a very good moment, where he says, not too shabby, but man, I'm starving. And Leonardo says, well, then you're in luck, kid. And that's when we get that scene that we were talking about before. So that was cool. And we get to see Michelangelo ask, wait, why are you here? And we get to see that they basically won him, as they said, came to see if you wanted to join us on a trip to Burno Island. The Fugitoids got something important he wants to show us. So I'm guessing it's going to be something to do with Crane's people, hopefully. And the volume basically ends with them just eating a pizza and basically talking to each other. I thought that was a really good way to end the volume, with them just eating pizza together, because that's what they do. They basically are eating a pizza together to end the volume. And yeah, that was Kevin Eastman and Tom Watts, IDW Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2011, Volume 14, Order from Chaos. And yeah, it was a solid volume. I'm going to be honest, when I saw the cover for this volume, especially after what we got with volume 12 and volume 13, the whole Foot Soldiers, Foot Clan, Shredder versus the Turtles and Splinter, I thought that, after that we're getting a massive downward spiral until we would get back up into quality. But when I read this volume, I was very surprised on how well written it actually was. It was enjoyable. There was nothing really groundbreaking in this volume, but you can tell that it was just a setup volume, as we had setup volumes in the previous giant saga that was the Shredder, saga in a way. You could call volumes 1 through 13. And of course, we had Crane in there as well as Master Stockman and stuff like that. But overall, it was leading into Shredder, and I thought we were gonna just not have something like that from this point forward, at least until we get back into Crane coming back, and then, like I said, maybe Kitsune taking on an antagonist role, as we know Shredder will be back in the future. He's the main villain, of course he's gonna be back in the future. You can't keep him out of the series, but I was very surprised that Volume 14 was as well done as it was, and I know Volume 15 definitely will be a lot better. Just a lot of stuff was just set up in this volume for Volume 15, and you could really tell. So hopefully Volume 15 is just a straight up banger in a way, and hopefully I really enjoy it, and hopefully I'm able to get that review out next week on Saturday as well. And hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to subscribe as we cover the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles IDW run, 2011 run basically on this channel. We're on Volume 14. There's, I believe, 21 volumes, or yeah, I think it's 21 volumes in the original run. It's still going on right now, but it got rebranded, I believe, with Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Reborn. So we might cover that, we might not, but when we get to it, we'll decide if we're going to do that or not. But we're already on Volume 14. We're more than halfway there, I believe, to finishing this run, Volume 1 through 21. And I've really enjoyed it so far. I can't wait to read the rest of it and just be able to experience this series with you guys as we're bringing these reviews out of every volume of the series so far. And yeah, until next video, guys, God bless you. Until next lesson, keep on reading those comments.